A very warm welcome back to DJ's Aviation, and if you do so happen to be new, feel free to hit that subscribe button, it would certainly mean a lot. In today's update, there's some controversy surrounding Qantas, oh I know you love that, and then we have Rex, who actually have a far worse situation that some may have initially imagined, and Airbus A380 developments. Let's begin there, and from 2025 onwards, Etihad Airways will not be the first airline to boost flights with the largest passenger plane, the A380. The Abu Dhabi-based company will begin flying its flagship aircraft to Singapore Changi on the 1st of February 2025, and the residents will now be available between the airline's home and the popular Asian location. By deploying the A380 to Singapore Changi, the carrier will make this location the fourth to experience the aircraft, with this plane already being deployed to the likes of London and New York. You're probably wondering, where's that third destination? Well, Etihad previously announced that starting on the 1st of November, it will begin using the aircraft on service to Paris Charles de Gaulle. To facilitate flying between Abu Dhabi and Singapore Changi, Etihad Airways has confirmed the reactivation of its sixth A380, which is scheduled to take place at the start of 2025. For this airline, the reactivation of the aircraft represents a very significant shift from its stance during the COVID-19 global pandemic. During these tough times, the company believed the aircraft no longer had a place within its fleet and intended to keep it grounded permanently. Ultimately, however, these plans couldn't continue, as not only were new aircraft delayed, but the A380 presented Etihad Airways with a pretty sizable opportunity to respond to growing demand across several key markets. The A380 is renowned for being a huge favourite among travellers, and Etihad Airways continues to recognise this as it carefully deploys the aircraft to markets to enhance the interior experience. While the airline focuses on a fantastic experience right across all its cabins, the focus will always certainly rest on the residents. This apartment-like space has aimed to redefine what it means to fly in upper class, and the cabin product is really possible as well, thanks to the sheer space that the A380 offers, and obviously this is not seen on other aircraft. Deviating away from this A380 news, but giving you a bit of bonus information, in the same release as announcing the A380 would be deployed to Singapore, Etihad also confirmed it'll boost flying towards Thailand, when from 27th of October, the airline will offer 41 flights per week to the country, with thrice daily flights to Bangkok and 20 weekly flights to Phuket. They say Thailand's an important part of their route portfolio, and they're excited to boost the flights there. Now onto the controversial news, which I'm sure many of you will have some pretty important feedback on. Despite departing Qantas amid one of the toughest periods in its history, Alan Joyce, the former head, continues to re-emerge into headlines. Qantas will now cut bonuses from that of former CEO Alan Joyce by a staggering AUD 9.3 million. The reason the exit bonuses have been reduced actually follows a major review that was conducted by external parties into Alan Joyce's tenure. As part of this review, the airline's performance and its status within the industry were focused in on, which was primarily due to the COVID-19 pandemic, which has led to that such dramatic change over a 5-year period. Interestingly, the review did find that Alan Joyce was responsible for the demise of the Australian flag carrier, with a lot of focus on the collapse of the relationship between the iconic brand and customers. Confidence in the Qantas brand, we know, dropped to historically low levels as the company navigated this pandemic. A lack of trust stemmed from unfair treatment of employees that came to light following investigations and many other issues, essentially being Alan Joyce making all the wrong decisions. As the airline faced mounting pressures and seemingly could do no right, the head, who was typically critiqued the most, left the company quite quickly as part of the airline's plan to overhaul the executive team, hoping this would result in the change required to turn the corner, something similar we're seeing take place at Boeing. While the external review confirmed that Alan Joyce was responsible for the essential demise of key business areas, this hasn't shocked the vast majority of observers who have studied the airline over recent years, arguably me included, and I'd probably say you watching this. Qantas really represented Australia as a country for some time. However, under Alan Joyce's leadership, the brand image, like I said, plummeted in the matter of a few years, and it was no longer respected or recognised as a quality brand. Before compensation was cut, Joyce was entitled to an amount exceeding 20 million AUD. This a staggering figure that many people felt not fair for a man responsible for leading the airline into a dark place, but obviously at this point an external review had not taken place. Qantas then found through that review that Joyce, who had previously worked the company through financial and other troubles, had seemingly been given too much leniency, which had caused the company to move in the wrong direction, and quite considerably, a place now you'd argue it's still trying to get out of. On to the final story, and staying within Australia. Rex, which was forced to suspend jet-powered operations using the 737 with Boeing, has had the state of its struggles truly revealed. Rex's administrators state the Australian carrier, placed into voluntary administration at the end of July, faces debts of some 500 million. Yes, 500 million. The substantial amount of debt is owed to some 4,800 creditors. Ernst & Young, the essential administrators, expressed concerns over when these amounts will actually be able to be paid. One of the biggest concerns about the state of Rex is not necessarily how much amount of debt it accumulated, but you'd argue how it accumulated so much debt in such a short space of time. While the airline's turboprop division is continuing to operate as normal, it's the jet-powered division, which you've got to remember only came to life in the early 2020s, that has been under fire. It is one of the more major recent changes that was implemented internally, so it hasn't been a part of their key business for that long. As part of that strategy shift that we witnessed, the airline pivoted from just regional operations using the Saab 340 to using 737s acquired to basically capitalize on the demise of Tiger Air. Yes, that is a throwback, a name you've probably not heard for some time, but this, a low-cost Australian airline that also collapsed in the last 5 years or so. While many actually applauded Rex's 737 operations, and I can say I actually had the pleasure, and yes, pleasure, of flying on one of their 737s and valued the experience far higher than any other Australian airline, some analysts were always concerned about the strategy's viability. Serving capital cities aimed to break Qantas's stronghold, and if there's anything we've learned in a similar sense to Canada, that's very difficult. Effectively, with Rex being placed into voluntary administration, the 737 operations ceasing, the airline has moved back to what it was traditionally known for, that being reliable and effective regional transportation across the country. As mentioned, getting the city services part of the business back up and running is going to be quite difficult, and many would probably argue to you, unattainable. But administrators will really consider pitching Rex as more a regional carrier, that getting back to its roots. Virgin Australia, on the other hand, was pretty quick to pounce on the misfortunes of Rex, announcing they would take on some of the 737 leases to enhance their own network and offer greater connectivity. That'll conclude today's aviation recap. Any thoughts, you can leave them down below in the comments. Thank you very much for your support here on the channel. It's very much appreciated. Take care, be safe, and I'll see you tomorrow for your latest industry news.
And we'll fly.